Thunderforest.com.
Hey guys, remember, like, comment, and subscribe. So, if you paid attention to like one of my Yu-Gi-Oh deck profiles or something like that, I like to do giveaways, and we are doing a giveaway. So this video, I'm going to throw in and say this video is in on that giveaway. So if you want to get in on that Starlight Rare, beautiful Chaos Dragon Levianeer, make sure you like, comment, and be a subscriber to this channel for that giveaway. Other than that, we are going to get into this top 10 list of the most important Batman movies ever created. Enjoy.
Out at number 10, you have Heart of Ice. Younger comic book fans may not know this, but Mr. Freeze wasn't always an A-list member of Batman's Rogue Gallery. In fact, he started life pretty bland as an ice villain known as Mr. Zero way back in 1959. Yeah, you've got that right. Then he appeared in the 60s Batman series, which was an improvement. But it wasn't until Batman, the animated series, that we truly got the version of Freeze that we all deserved and didn't know we wanted. In 1992, Paul Dini and Bruce Timm reintroduced Freeze as a tragic character who was committing crimes in order to save his beloved wife, Nora, who had been cryogenically frozen, let me get that right, in a tank after being diagnosed with a terminal illness. Freeze hoped to figure out the cure and bring her back to life. We also learned that the scientists become a cold-hearted villain. This is a tale of loss and revenge that you do not want to miss. So if you have not ever seen it, go check it out. Make sure you watch the animated version. Do not go and watch Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. Bad idea. Okay, coming in at number 9, which is probably one of my favorite stories, and that is Hush. Now, Jeff Loeb is known for his sprawling bat epics full of twists and turns and plenty of villains. Hush, a tale that really puts old bats through the ringer, doesn't disappoint us at all. If you have not read this, please go read it. You will love it. All right. It's made all the better by the fact that legendary Jim Lee is on the pencils. Come on now. He's beautiful artwork every time. You may know this arc best as the story where Bruce finally revealed his true identity to Catwoman and began his romance with her in earnest. But it was also the stage for the return of Jason Todd, who had been presumed dead since 1988's A Death in the Family. That's one key why this is most important, okay? But most importantly, this story introduced Thomas Elliot, a man from Bruce's past who has been on destroying Batman and Wayne himself. And guess what? He knows who he is. Despite his monstrous stature and bandaged face, Hush is unexpectedly calculating and is able to operate from behind the scenes for most of the story. He is incredibly ruthless, okay? Please, if you have not, please make that one of your starting titles if you're getting into reading Batman. And if you have yet to read that and you're already into Batman, what are you doing? All right. At number 8, we have Nightfall. Okay. Back before Bruce was killed off every 5 minutes, Nightfall was a pretty big deal. After all, it's the story that forced Bruce to retire from crime fighting and pass on his mantle to Jean Paul Valley, also known as Azrael. Okay. This story was also a showcase for Bane's awesome might. He has systematically broke down the bat, eventually shattered the Dark Knight's bat with one knee. That's where you get Bane breaking his back from. Come on now. The entire quest ultimately serves as a testament to why Bruce is a one true Batman. Of course, Bruce's early retirement is a temporary one. When the new Batman begins to go off the rails and brutalize criminals all over Gotham, Bruce has to push himself to heal and regain his mantle. The entire quest ultimately serves as a testament to why Bruce is the one true Batman. All right. In The Dark Knight Rises, the Christopher Nolan's final Batman movie, borrowed heavily from the story arc, as well as Dark Knight Returns and No Man's Land. Okay. We wouldn't have big parts of those movies if it wasn't for that story. Okay. Number 7, A Death in the Family. How did you not know? Let's go back into the late 80s and features one of the most infamous deaths in all of comic book history. In 1988, DC announced that it would allow readers to decide the fate of Jason Todd, the second Robin, by calling into a 900 number. Even though Jason wasn't very popular Robin, nowhere near as beloved as Dick Grayson, who had moved on to become Nightwing. The vote on his fate was a very close in the end, but we know where it went. Jason is captured and tortured by the Joker, who lures the boy wonder into the Middle East by baiting the impulsive psychic with whereabouts of his missing mother. Joker successfully captures Jason and tortures him with a crowbar before Batman can save his sidekick. Joker blows Jason up sky high. This dark, controversial story received tons of media attention at the time. With that, come on, guys. The fans chose. See, this is a couple years before my time, but fans got to choose the fate of a character. That doesn't happen, okay? That does not happen, and they let us do it, and it was a beautiful story. Okay, number 6, A Lonely Place of Dying. Batman didn't spend too much time without a Robin after the death of Jason Todd in 1988. In fact, by 1990, he had met his next sidekick, young Tim Drake. A Lonely Place of Dying by Marv Wolfman, George Perez, and Jim Aparo introduced Tim as a precocious kid who has already deduced his true identities of both Batman and the original Robin by the time he first crossed paths with Dick during the trip to Haley's Circus. It became clear to both Dick and Tim that Batman needs a Robin, lest he lose himself to the darker side, and we don't want that now, do we, kids? Tim dons and the Robin costume for the first time while Batman and Nightwing fight Two-Face. By the end of the story, Batman has come to terms with the fact that he needs a Robin to balance out his war on crime. Because we all know that Robin, his sidekick, has a bigger purpose than just wearing all those bright colors to gain people's attention away from Batman, right? At number 5, we have The Man Behind the Red Hood. The Man Behind the Red Hood turns out to be a big surprise midway through the story as Batman opens up a cold case for criminology students at Gotham University. While the tale begins, Batman encouraging students to figure out his identity of mysterious burglar Red Hood, who disappeared after jumping into a vat of chemicals to escape capture. You know where this is going. It turns out that it's actually Joker's very first origin story. You see, the Joker began his career as a thief named Red Hood. Scott Snyder later used the backstory for Zero Hero, who got into a fight with Batman at the Monarch Playing Card Company and lost. The Red Hood reappears while Batman is teaching the class, but it turns out he's a copy of the original who was revealed to be the Joker. Now, a lot of people were like, oh, the Joker doesn't really have. This is the only true Joker arc for his beginning. Okay, I don't care. Forget the rest. Okay, forget them. It doesn't matter. Anyways, number 4, The Long Halloween. This is again, it's the 4th most important, but I would say this is one of my top favorites. Period. The Long Halloween is basically a story of the fall of Harvey Dent and the birth of Two-Face. It's beautiful. But it's also so much more than that. It's a story of Batman's early war with the mob and eventual rise of his much more colorful gallery of rogues. From completionists who want to read the tales from the early days of Batman's career, you cannot miss this one. This is way too pertinent to miss if you're into Batman. The Long Halloween is also meant to be a sort of sequel to Frank Miller's landmark Year One. The story also reimagines Calendar Man, a villain who once played for the laughs, but is now a serial killer who bases his murder on holidays. He gets up to play Hannibal Lecter in this one. What really puts the icing on the cake is Tim Sale's wonderfully creepy art. Please go check it out. The artwork is magnificent. Again, beautiful story. You won't regret the read. At number 3, we cannot go without mentioning Year One. Until a few years back, when you talked about Batman's official origin stories, you were talking about Frank Miller's Year One storyline, which follows Bruce Wayne from the death of his parents all the way to his first attempts at vigilantism. Probably just vigilante, to his first attempt at being a vigilante. His ultimate transformation into the Batman. Miller expertly incorporates aspects of the original story in Batman #1 and adds much of the grit that he had reintroduced the character of The Dark Knight Returns just a year before. Miller also pulls a clever trick by focusing on the early career of Jim Gordon, turning the book into a noir about two men trying to save their cities on their own terms. Gordon is by the book, but ultimately recognizes Gotham needs someone like Batman to sift through the muck of the corrupt police department. All right, on to number 2. We cannot forget this one. This is probably, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, I'm talking about the graphic novel, not the animated movie. Okay? The Killing Joke. Considered to be the definitive version of Joker's origin story. Of course, we already went back and discussed Red Hood. The Killing Joke is Alan Moore's biggest contribution to the Batman mythos, and by far his most controversial. This tale actually remixes aspects of the man behind the Red Hood, modernizing them for an audience hungry for darker comic book stories, and it really doesn't get much darker than The Killing Joke. On top of telling Joker's origin story, although it's still vague enough to be a complete lie made up by the clown Prince of Crime, who would have thought? This is also a comic book that asks how far Batman will go to finally put an end to his archenemy's reign of terror. The Killing Joke is meant to be the last Batman and Joker story, and it more than delivers. Now, before we get into our top pick for most important Batman stories ever told, we're going to give you a few just real quick honorable mentions. Okay, Batman 1989, Michael Keaton, come on now. Even though The Dark Knight had transformation in the comics in 1986 with Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, the mainstream audience still associated Batman with the 60s parody TV show starring Adam West. That all changed in 1989 with Tim Burton's Batman. Okay, I'm sorry, still to this day, my favorite actor playing Batman is still Michael Keaton. Okay, another honorable mention, we are going to go ahead and mention The Court of Owls. Okay, Scott Snyder made his new 52 debut on the main Batman book about a story's Gotham's greatest secret, The Court of Owls. If you have not checked it out, it's another one worth checking out. All right, Under the Hood is another one, as well as Zero Year and The Case of the Chemical Syndicate. Okay, those are our honorable mentions. Okay, and of course, without Batman #1, okay, is another classic comic that introduced the biggest elements of Batman mythos. The book is required for reading for those who want to catch the Joker's very first appearance in the comics, as well as Batman's #1. Come on, guys. And the funny thing is if you didn't know, fun fact about Batman, H.P. Lovecraft actually gave his go-ahead with this, and that's where the term Arkham comes from inside Batman, because it is based off of H.P. Lovecraft's Arkham horror series. And if you have not checked him out, go ahead and give him a check. Best horror author out there, I don't care. And without him, we wouldn't have Batman. Okay, so our top pick for the most important Batman story ever wrote, The Dark Knight Returns. The Dark Knight Returns is often cited as the greatest Batman story ever told, and it's hard to argue that point. Okay, you can't argue against someone. Okay, Frank Miller wrote this magnum opus in 1986. Okay, 80s was a great time for comics, guys, and it is a tale about a future without Batman, a city ruled by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals. At the center of this superhero tragedy is an older, beaten Bruce Wayne, who's retired after the death of Jason Todd. But Bruce's retirement was not meant to last. Therefore, perhaps never been such an effective peek into Batman's mind. Miller resurrects Batman in an incredible fashion, telling the story of The Dark Knight Returns through news reports and Bruce's own dark inner monologue. There's perhaps never been such an effective peek into Batman's mind. And then there's the debut of Carrie Kelly, who becomes our eyes into the world without Batman, and later, one inspired by him. This story also finally answers the question, who would win in a fight, Batman or Superman?
All right, guys, that's it. That is my top 10 for the most important Batman stories ever told. I'm still getting used to this editing thing on these new softwares, so I hope you guys enjoyed my list. If you did, be sure again to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite Batman movie is, or not movie, but story or movie. Either way, Batman related item. Go ahead, it is all up to you. That's the beauty of True Nerdgasm. We cover everything nerdy. I am still working on more stuff. If you enjoyed this, this is literally an excerpt of one of the podcasts that I done early last year. I hope you guys really enjoyed this because I really enjoyed putting this list together. I know that when I did this list, it was literally just nonstop for like an entire like 3-4 days of nonstop just reading and trying to determine what was the highest rated and trying to piece together which ones that I felt were more important than the others. Hope you guys enjoyed. Other than that, make sure you know that we will be back with another video here soon, and we hope to see you there. Thank you guys.